inside my heartache. Do you know what we've lost? Do you know what we've lost? Inside this earthquake, do you know how we fell through the cracks on the wall? We've lost everything we thought we knew. We lost everything we seemed to prove. We lost everything we thought we knew. We lost everything we thought we knew. All this devotion, all this emotion, inside this heartbreak. Do you know what we've lost? Do you know what we've lost? Inside this earthquake, did we fall through the cracks? Did we land on our back? All of devotion fades. All this emotion will fade. Always. Fade away. Fade away. Oh man, so hi. Hi everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. It's going to be a bit strange cuz I've picked some oddball bits and I've got a few stories to tell and we'll get into all that of course. But for those of the for those of you that don't know, um on Sunday, I got a phone call that David Jarrett had passed away. And for those of you that don't know, David Jarrett was the guy who founded Jarrett Records, which was my partner back in the day when we were doing Orange Works and Jarrett Records together. And for a little while, we merged. And as you may know, Hope was re released uh, from the cardboard version to a a plastic version through Jarrett Records. And then, of course, Electrodelica came out through Jarrett Records in conjunction with Orange Works. And we had a good run for a while. And then things kind of fell through the wayside in the wake of MP3 stuff. And he and I kind of went into different directions, but we wound up talking again around the pandemic, around 2020 when the quarantine stream started. And so we were getting on there for a while to chat and stuff. And I was really, really sad that to hear that he'd passed away. And so I have a few stories to tell about the our funky relationship. And oh, thank you, Jose. Thank you for that. Thank you, all of you, for those nice condolences. But more so, I will send the vibes off to his family, who's probably going through the worst time, obviously. And my heart does go out to them and his bandmate, Scott. As you know, or may not know, um, David Jarrett was also part of Rhythmus. And so, you know, um, so yeah, and they were just, you know, not going to talk about everything because I think that as things develop, you will learn more about what's going on with Rhythmus. But I know they were working on re-releasing all their material. They were doing their band camp. So it is really sad and sudden to have lost someone from the community. And he was younger than me, so I feel it hit me hard in a weird, strange way. And I'm still processing it. I'm not going to lie. I'm still processing it. Um, and, you know, so it's not that I'm going to make this thing a whole sad thing because I don't want that. But I want to be able to tell some stories about David and I, which was some of them are really funny. Some of them are not so funny, but we'll talk about some of that stuff. Eric on Facebook has a question. When you guys recorded your albums with Jarrett, did you have to move to Austin, Texas? No, I did not. All was as it should be. I was working here in California, but that is also part of the funny story of Jarrett Records. The other funny thing about Jarrett Records that people don't know or may not know is that I'm going to start saying Jarrett and we because we're both in this. We were both in this together. We brought in 7 Red 7 because I love 7 Red 7, and so therefore I was pretty instrumental in pitching 7 Red 7 to him. And then, of course, Mesh, which if you guys are Mesh fans, there's a funny story about that I'm going to tell as we go along this journey. So it seems, but yeah, it was a long time ago, and we hadn't spoken for years. I think, yeah, it'd been about 4, maybe 5 years since we'd spoken, and again, it was around 2020, towards the tail end of 2020, when I got a text from David Jarrett we got on the phone together. We had a really good chat. And then from then on, we would just kind of reach out to each other every couple weeks and talk. And it was good to catch up. And, we squashed any differences that we had, and we were, talking more about music and what was coming next. And he used to watch the streams, but he said he was quiet on the streams because he didn't want to cause any issue. But he would tell me that sometimes he would watch the streams. So he was sometimes on the streams and you didn't know it. So anyway, Easy Sparky says love mesh. Oh yeah, cause and effect too. So uh I'm going to tell you the first story, which is really funny, is how he wound up meeting Abox and how he wound up coming to my apartment, which is really funny. So out of the blue, I don't remember when exactly it was, but it was, I would say, late 92, 93, somewhere around there. I get this phone call and it's David Jarrett. And he's like, I am in this other band called Rhythmus. I'm thinking about starting a label. I like what you do, and I think you do it well, and you do, your own thing, and I want to pick your brain and see if we can do something together. And, so here's this perfect stranger talking to me on the phone, which I've never met. And for some reason, he sold me on the idea of us talking. So I said, sure, when do you want to do it? Like, when do you want to get together? Because you're in Austin or something. And he's like, actually, I'm in California right now. And if you don't mind, let's get together and just talk. And I was just like, what? So at first, before I said, okay, I had to kind of look him up. So I had to find out who Rhythmus was. Was it legit? I didn't want to like go somewhere and like, some weird thing happens to me. So I just decided, well, yeah, I'm going to go meet these guys. So I went and met David and Scott at their hotel room, and eventually wound up in my apartment, and we wound up talking. And I think we talked for most of the evening. And right from there, we kind of decided that we were going to do something. Around that time, Hope was doing really well, but I was having severe burnout because I was doing a lot of the work that I didn't like doing. I wasn't used to it. So I was doing the distribution. I was doing the phone calls to radio because you had to do those things back then. I was writing the bios to send to magazines, all the stupid shit that I don't like doing at all. I really still don't like doing it, but I've gotten more used to doing it, I should say. But back then I was on severe burnout. So meeting him was very good for me because what happened was we basically got together and I said, you can run this thing. I just want to make the music, do the artwork, send you a finished master with some stuff. You put it out. And then he's like, yeah, fine, we'll do that. So that's literally how we made our deal. And then I was like, and you'll listen to some tapes of bands that I like and see if we can, work together on signing the bands. So he agreed to this. So it was pretty funny. The first 2 years, I think, that we were doing it, it was a lot of fun because it was so new. And it was nice to have like a managerial figure in my life where I didn't have to really think about certain things. He would just call me and say, hey, you have an interview here, or hey, we're sending out, 200 promos to all these radio stations. Hey, can you do an ID? That kind of stuff. And me, I was just in the studio and just, making a bunch of noises. So I was happy that I didn't have to do any of that work. But of course, things weren't perfect because obviously I was used to doing certain things. And so once we kind of got more into the label, that's when I think I started to like, I need some of this control back because I'm used to doing certain things a certain way and it wasn't going my way. So I just remember us having like, some fights on the phone and shouting matches, but The funny thing about our shouting matches, and I'm going to say this before I tell you a really funny story, was that they would wind up with either him saying, all right, I'll be there for the weekend and we're going to hash this out. And he'd show up. He'd take a flight out to California, stay here. We'd hash out our differences and fly home. And then other times he'd fly me into Austin. We'd have our fights and our, meetings. And then we would settle it and I'd go home. So it was a very interesting thing. So again, losing him as a friend is it's a terrible thing both times, but this time even worse because obviously he's gone. So I can't just call him up and, run things off of him like I had been in the last couple months. I would run some idea off and he would be like, yeah, you should do that, So that part kind of makes me sad. Of course it makes me sad. I'm still processing it. So if I say stupid shit, I'm sorry. None of this is scripted. I didn't plan any of this. I don't even have notes except for 2 stories that I don't want to forget. But other than that, yeah, strange week all around. But let's play something. So I'm going to play something and then I'll come back and then I'll tell you the story of how Mesh happened, because that's a really funny one. And it deserves to be told in its correct way. I wish he could be here to tell it with me, because I'm sure I'm going to get some parts wrong. But to the best of my recollection, I'm going to tell you that story when we come back. Let's see. Right. Let's play something. I'm going to drink something. I'm going to drink something and then I'll come back. But anyway, overhead. Whoa. Oh, wow. I almost missed it. I almost missed my cue. Yeah, that's the Interface 2X mix by Interface 2X. Um and yeah, that one kind of got there's a couple of mixes that got lost in the wayside that were found later during 2020 when I was going through the lockdown, as you guys know, and the quarantine streams are going on and all that stuff, which I don't know. Is it just me or does it feel like it's probably just me? But I've been having a form of weird PTSD where I'm like recalling a lot of the days of 2020, and I don't know why, but it could be related to the fact that I'm going back to some old material and unearthing stuff. So it kind of puts me in that mode. But yeah, this was one of those mixes that I found um, on one of my hard drives, and it was just lost. So I've taken care to put all these mixes that I found and at least have them in one place so that I can figure out what's going to happen with them. But I'll give you a hint. Um, the 12-inch that's going to come out, which is, like I said, Hope on one side and Worth centric on the other. That's one of several things that will be coming along and in that format. So you'll probably see this show up on something, um, more likely than not. And if not, it'll show up as a B-side or something on one of the releases on Bandcamp. So I don't mean to be a shill, but this is why it's good to follow me on Bandcamp, because you will discover that some of this doesn't get announced. It just shows up. But anyway, so the Mesh story is funny because before Mesh actually sent us a CD to listen to, they sent us a cassette. And they sent the cassette to Orangeworks. As you know, or may not know, Orangeworks was the first label that I was working with that basically Abox built to release Hope. And because we had this label and we really painted it outside of Abox as much as possible, I think we did a pretty good job because suddenly we were starting to get demos in the mail. And one of the first demos that showed up was Mesh's, oh gosh, I can't remember the title of that thing, but it's just the EP, the very first EP, but it was on cassette. So I remember having this, and at the time I was driving a pretty crappy car, which had an equally crappy, well, the tape deck wasn't crappy, or rather, I should say the speaker system wasn't crappy, but the tape deck was definitely crappy. So I told you how David had shown up in California, and we had started working together, and I told him about Mesh. And this is before you could get everything you need to. This was before you could get everything you need to find on a band online. Meaning, I don't think they had a site yet. I don't think they had. We didn't have social media at that moment in time. It was just the early days of the internet. So all we had was glimmers. So I had to explain to him that I couldn't send him the cassette that I had so that he could listen to the demos, because the tape was stuck in my car. Like the the cassette would not eject out of my car. It would play it endlessly and flip it over. It had like auto reverse and everything, but it would never eject this tape. So basically, I was driving around listening to Mesh and only Mesh for like, it must have been months. Seriously. I was so tired of it, but I loved it. So I would play it all the time. So long story short, he winds up coming to California to do one of those meeting things we would do. And I picked him up and I'm like, so just so you know that I wasn't lying, try ejecting the tape. And he couldn't eject the tape. So the only way we could both listen to this tape was to drive in my car. And he fell in love with it, obviously. And then, of course, we got in touch with the band and they sent us a CD or CDR, one of the two, at the new office that we had. And then, the rest is history. He signed them, and we wound up doing a show together. Abox and Mesh actually played together once. We did the oh gosh, my memory. The It was one of those Austin things, like I don't know, one of those festival things, and we played with Mesh on one evening, and they were nice guys. But the whole point of my story is that yeah, I couldn't physically send him a tape, and they were in the UK, so I didn't want to ask them to send him a tape because mine was still stuck in the car because I thought that was embarrassing. So yeah, he wound up listening to the tape in my car while he was out here, and that's how he fell in love with them. And then eventually, of course, the stupid tape did pop out, but I don't know where it is. I don't know where that Mesh tape is. Probably worth something now, of course. Ah, such is my life, but it's okay. But that's how we wound up with, yes, Fragile, the Fragile EP. But the original version was on cassette, and it was really cool because it had an extra song or two that were acoustic at the end. And I don't think one of those songs appears on the CD. I think it was only on the cassette. I really, really loved that EP. So I bugged the crap out of him to, that we could release everything, the new album, whatever they wanted, but we had to have the Fragile EP, and we released that. So I had a hand in that. And then the other one I had a hand in was 7 Red 7, because of course we'd done shows with 7 Red 7. So, I got him to go chase after them. And there was a few other bands that, that he had an active interest in. I'm not saying I didn't, but I think there was a band that sounded like sort of like the Smiths, or like that kind of genre. Like that was more his signing. I would go after like really strange electronic things, and half the stuff I would give him, he didn't like. But, you know, Easy Sparky's asking me, do I still have the tape? No, man, I lost that. I don't know where the heck that is. I have no idea. My guess, if I had to guess, is that tape got lost in the Fullerton flood. That's right, Steve. Steve Baldo says on Facebook, thank you for that information, Steve, because I do have a shoddy memory sometimes. It's really funny. Side note, I have a strange, my brain is very strange in that way. Like I have funny, like I will have trouble with birthdays, including my own. I have trouble remembering like the names of certain things. But I have no problem. Like if I have to look up something, let's say in the MPC 3000 manual, I will know exactly what page it's on and flip to it. Like if I need to know, like, how do you change the filter settings again? I know exactly where it is. Don't ask me how my brain works that way, but that's how my brain functions. So I have more of a photographic memory when it comes to manuals, code, menus, buttons and knobs than I do things like festivals and concert dates, and sometimes even what day I'm flying out. So it's funny that way. But yeah, Steve says he signed 2 Minute Sinatra, and that was the band that he signed exclusively. But yeah, the ones I had a hand in were Mesh and of course 7 Red 7. So, but yeah, it was funny, driving around with a tape stuck in my car, which is really funny to think about it. I that's one of the memories that came flooding back this week, among others. Another funny memory I have of him was when we just went out to a club, and I didn't do a lot of drinking. Like I still don't drink very much. Like 1 or 2 beers, and I can literally like. And so he got me quite drunk, and I just remember him driving us back, and me just like completely out of my mind, and he was laughing the entire time. So I thought that was really funny. That was another memory that came back. And then of course, his astute business sense. He did have a good business sense in that way, that he was good in dealing with lawyers and radio people, and he would get us audience in places where I didn't think that was possible, which was cool, so I commend him for that. Some of that rubbed off on me later on, and because it was hard not to have that bravado rub off a little bit because he had so much of it. So, lost him a little too soon, but anyway, let's continue. I'm going to play, I have these were not particularly planned. I sort of went through the gamut of emotions, and as I found things, I thought I'm just going to play whatever emotion I have. So one of the records that David Jarrett had a hand in, that was the Abox record, was Electrodelica, and I'll explain. Electrodelica it was probably the deviation, the first major deviation from pure synth pop. So one, he wasn't really happy about it at all. In fact, the first batch of songs that I wrote were even weirder than the ones that are on the album. And he was like, I don't know what you're going to do with this. He's like, you realize you're going to lose a lot of fans. So that was one of our first arguments. And I was like, well, you have to understand, I'm going into a direction. So I remember having this fight, but he did do something really cool. So he said, I'm going to come out for a weekend. I want you to play me the new material, and I want you to find me what you think are the singles. So I played him the 2 singles that I thought were as close to singles as could be. And he actually came around. And then he was there for the mix down for Doubt. And he was there for the mix down of Conscious. And I think, I want to say Negaverse, but it was 3 songs that he was there that night. And as we were mixing, I would just give him a job because I don't know if I have told you guys this story before, but there was no automation. So all our mixes was basically a 24 track board with 24 returns, mind you. So we're talking almost 48 channels of stuff going on. So we had to kind of map it out, and everybody would get a set of faders that they had to work. And I would have notes. You're going to lower this when I tell you to. You're going to unmute this when I tell you to. So he had a hand. When I say he had a hand in it, he literally had his hand on probably 5 faders that were his job for some of these songs, which is really funny. So this is one that he was there for. And he thought this was just like a drugged out song. Like he thought I was doing drugs or something. He's like, what were you taking when you thought about this stuff? And of course, I was pretty darn sober. I never did anything like that. So this is Doubt, and I'll come back. Yeah, Overhead sounds good. No, actually Moon sounds much better for this one. Yeah, Doubt.
Sometimes I get so jaded and stare at the wall.
Doubt from Electrodelica. So yeah, so our relationship was tumultuous, but he came around, and then once the album was mixed, um, is this is a funny story too because he wanted to be there for the mastering sessions, and I said no. In fact, no one was there for the mastering session. I wanted to be there alone with the mastering engineer because I wanted to learn. Um, so yeah, I spent most of that mastering budget, most of the budget that we had. A lot of it went into the mastering sessions because it was such a weird mastering session. But I loved it because I learned so much by being with another engineer. And he basically told me that probably by the next album I would probably be mastering myself, only because he he kept. It was Doug Doyle, Digital Brothers, which is funny because I think he's passed. I heard he'd passed like a few years back. So yeah, it's funny, like all these connections to this record. But anyway, Easy Sparky says on YouTube, are all the vocal tracks you? Yes. I did all the vocals on Electrodelica. Danya had left for a while during Electrodelica. Um, but I think my daughter makes a few cameos on Electrodelica. And then I did get Danya to come in and do something on Pop Song, as well as a bunch of other people. So it was Electrodelica was fun. It was actually a fun record to make. But yeah, once I sent him the master, I remember him just calling me up and saying, "Yeah, man, I think you've done it. I think you've done something." And then we set about, trying to promote it and trying to release the first single, which was Conscious. And we actually got it to be reviewed on Billboard, or I should say, he got it to be reviewed on Billboard. I don't think I would have gotten it reviewed on Billboard. I just wasn't, I'm still not industry minded enough to get that kind of stuff. It's just because I don't care. But he cared. He cared enough that he said, "Hey, it would be good if we get a gold record out of this." So he did all the footwork that it would take. That's right, Steve. Dan has a few moments, as does Rui. Everyone who was there had a hand in mixing it at one point or another. Like when Rui was there, we did automatons, and with David very specifically, we did Conscious and Doubt, from what I can remember, and I believe Dirt as well. I think that was the other one that we did. That was kind of cool. Um, but it was his idea in Conscious. It ends with this weird bass line, and it was his idea to. I had a different ending. It was more symphonic, I guess you could say. And he said, if we want this to be remixed by someone, it should have some sort of extra beat at the end. So why don't you write something and stick that at the end? He didn't actually say what. He just said he thought it needed to have like a more danceable beat at the end with some sort of bass. And so I wound up doing it. And the next day when we got together, he was there. He was like, let's mix this. So, we all sat down and mixed it. And I think my friend Rui was there for that one too, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to email him and pick his brain because I can't remember who was there because I was obviously focused on the mix. I can remember the mix. I can tell you all the faders, what they were doing. But yeah, that just goes to show you how weird my brain is. But, cuckoo. But at any rate, so yeah. So obviously Electrodelica had a big deal, So I'm going to play a completely different song that has nothing to do with anything except for during one of our conversations, he'd asked me like, what have you been listening to in the last couple of years? Like, what have you been into? And I told him how I was into like Radiohead, Portishead, a bunch of different things. And he said he liked Portishead's third album. He'd mentioned that he liked it. And I said, well, I did a cover of it, of one of those songs. And he's like, you, what? I'm like, yeah, I did a cover of one of the Portishead songs. And I meant to send it to him. I think, it's like you need to put a list together of all these things and all the albums and things I haven't heard yet. And we never got around to it, but we talk about it. So he never got to hear this. So, but I had told him about it. So I'm going to play a song that is basically Abox covering Portishead. And then I'll come back and then we'll just continue this little bit of a saying goodbye to David Jarrett. But yeah, anyway. Yeah, I think I need the moon for this. I'm sorry. Machine Gun.
I saw a savior come my way. I thought I'd see it in the cold light of day. And now I realize that I'm only for me. If only I could see, return yourself from me and recognize the poison in my heart. There is no other place, no one else I'd face. The remedy, you will agree, is how I feel. Here am I reflecting. What more can I say? For I am guilty for the voice that I have made. Too scared to sacrifice the choice chosen for me. If only I could see, return yourself to me and recognize the poison in my heart. There is no other place, no one else I face. The remedy, you will agree, is how I feel.
So yeah, that was the cover that I did of Portishead, and I was gonna send it to him, but it didn't. It wound up not happening. So yeah, Ira, I agree with you, man. Feeling older and older every week. I feel like it's that weird time period in my life where more people that I know are leaving the world, and that's a strange phenomenon all around. And it's not just friends. I mean, it's pretty strange. I have no grandparents left. My parents are gone. Most of my uncles, and now more and more of my friends. And it's like you can almost see it in the distance, like, I'm coming for you, that kind of feeling. So, man, it's like strange. Like, it just feels strange, but I'm still here. I'm still kicking. But it's just that funny feeling like you can't predict anything. And to be honest, that was one of the last people I expected to find out they'd passed. So, yeah, it's a bit of a, like I said, it's been a bit of a mind F all week. Still processing it all, but I think that I'm trying to keep all the memories of it. Um, that all the memories that we had together that were fun, and obviously, like I said, we were way over our, whatever shit we had between us, it was gone. Because every time we would talk, we would just like poke fun at one another and talk about music and UFOs. A lot of UFO talks with David Jarrett and aliens among us, that kind of stuff. So it definitely was one of those, those good common ground things that we would always like latch onto. And so once we started talking again, those were the first things we would talk about. So obviously, you know, so yeah, I mean, this is that time, of our lives where as we get older, this is the kind of thing you will face. So I don't think anyone can prepare you for it. So I'm not going to try to prepare you for it because I don't think that it even works. You just have to sort of roll with those punches because no matter what, they're coming. I don't know why I'm turning the mic. It doesn't matter. I think it doesn't matter. But so yeah, um, so here I am going back through years and years of work, and I don't know, just thinking about all the things that that we could have done, or things that we didn't get to do, because he had invited me out to, I guess he had some sort of townhouse or something out in Florida. He was very successful, by the way, in other endeavors in life. I think he had about 5 or 6 businesses he was running. So talk about an entrepreneur. David Jarrett was a true entrepreneur, man. Pretty self-made in certain ways. But yeah, he'd invited me out to Florida to spend some time there, and I told him I would definitely hit him up on that because, of course, I was interested. And he was going to show me the rig that he had started to put together, and of course, he'd mentioned that he and Scott were working on new material. So yeah, it's kind of sad that I don't get to see him, talk to him anymore in that sense. Which, as you know, if you've been listening or been on this stream before, this has happened with a lot of different people on this stream and before. So, back in the forum days, we lost Micah. Then, of course, I lost my friend Bomba and Brooks, and we lost Vega. It's last couple of years have been a little rough on that side. So what can we do except keep their memories alive and, just remember, man. I know. I know, Steve. It is very hard to get me to go to Florida. Not because I don't like it. It's just time. Time management is not on my side. It's just not. Anyway, so um, another interesting thing that we'd gone through was that he'd come to California to listen to some demos. Like I said, he would take a flight out rather than us talk on the phone. He would literally fly out for a weekend. He would get a hotel room somewhere. We'd hole up in the studio and listen to tapes. And it was his idea to do the 2 CD set thing and have interview bits. And it's because he likes certain songs that were, he considered them to be better than just B-sides. And he thought if we put it on the second CD on Electrodelica, he says they may be better served. It didn't wind up that way because having an interview bit before the song kind of ruined it. But at least in my point of view, it kind of messed it up a little bit. But it was nice that those songs got out. And so one of the songs he liked a lot was the one I'm going to play next. So yeah. And this song saw the light of day again during 2020, and it was released. So you can get this one on Bandcamp, but again, you know, it's one of those weird things that just happens. And I don't think he knew that this one was on Bandcamp, or that that this one had been re-released on Bandcamp, because he would have mentioned it. Because there's another one that he did mention off of Hope that he liked very much from the stream, and I'm going to play that towards the end. But anyway, I'm going to play the song in question, and we'll turn on visuals for this one. This is, of course, Pray.
Life, death, death, life, death, life, death, life, life, death, life, death, life, death, death, life, death, life, death, life, life, death, life, death.
I have seen a vision, moments lost in time. No one seems to notice it but me. I saw an ending to all that we know.
Oh, I forgot those samples were in there. That didn't feel that good in that sense. Oh, strange. I forgot about those samples. Steve. So, Steve, one of my best friends, Steve's, is saying on Facebook, Claude, I know it's towards the breakup with Jarrett, but can you discuss the origins and the eventual release of Electrospective? It's a can of worms, to be honest. Electrospective happened because uh, the label was on a decline. Basically, we had completely overextended ourselves, and the MP3 era had started. And I was into the idea that streaming and downloads were going to be the future. And from what I remember, David was not too happy about it. But in fact, he even said when we started talking again, one of the things he told me was, if those damn MP3s hadn't, if that whole file sharing thing hadn't started, we could have done so much better with the releases. And I agree, but at the same time, I was willing to go forward with that stuff, and he wasn't. And so a lot of the strife that was going on between us had to do with, it had to do with Napster and all that stuff. So we had a meeting, and basically he'd said that I had to give Jarrett Records one more record to release. But that to just to kind of show you how good his character was, because I don't think a label on earth would have done this as a partnership was in dissolution or dissolving. So what we did was we were going to do like a sort of, not a best of, because what we were going to do is put out all the demos from the Peace era, and some demos from the Worth era too are on that particular piece. And as a favor to me, we pressed 1,000, and 500 of them came to me so that I could sell them on my own, and then 500 would stay with the label. And then basically that was our dissolving of the recording contract, so that both of us could go our way with, with all the masters and whatnot, but that this particular record would stay on Jarrett, but I could have those copies so that I could sell them and make money from them. So that was kind of nice, because it allowed me to go into survival mode, which of course I had to. And by doing that, I was able to, a year later release Recovered, and then, bounce back with the Universe and everything else, so it was good, because otherwise it would have been a disastrous thing to not have anything to release and not anything to live off of. So that was a good way for us to dissolve the whole thing. And if you are curious, I couldn't even really keep Orangeworks going at that time, because I thought it's too tied in with Jarrett Records. And that was actually when Orangeworks blipped out of existence, and then it became Presswork for a little bit, for just a tiny bit, eventually turning into NPop, which of course that's my baby now. But yeah, it was that whole. So yeah, an album that was done to get our last contractual thing out of the way, and make room for, other things. But unfortunately, after that was done, we didn't talk for a long time. So yeah, it was a long, long time before we actually talked with one another. I think we emailed each other once or twice about certain idiosyncrasies between us, but nothing terrible. But like I said, we eventually patched everything up in 2020, and then we were calling each other every couple of weeks. So it's what are we gonna do? It's one of those things. But as far as retrospective is concerned, I didn't like the artwork, even though I did it. I didn't like that we rushed it, because it had to be rushed, to try to take advantage of what little sales we could get out of it. So I feel like that was one of the least put together records that we put out together. Does that make sense? But since then, I don't know. I think I still have copies of it. I'm pretty sure I have stock of that record. And there's been some times when I've wanted to, put it out again, but I decided, nah, it's not the time. Besides, there's other music to be had, and and that stuff wound up seeing its own day. But at any rate, but yeah, like Easy Sparky says, it's good that we had the chance to patch things up, because on the friendship side of things, it was good. It was very good. And I feel like we both had a decisive influence on the other. So I thought that was actually a really good thing. I admired his tenacity for, like I said, business and some of the ways that he tackled certain things. So I was really into that. So it was nice to reconnect with him. And, I can tell you that he said he was proud of me for being able to survive it all and not give up. Because most people give up, and he said, you never gave up. So, I get to carry that on my shoulders a little bit. So, but, anyway, that said, Rhythmus did do a remix of Living in Oblivion. And during the Jarrett years, he convinced me to re-record Living in Oblivion, which, by the way, I did not want to do. But it was one of those things where it was time, and the timing was perfect. It was around 95. So Rhythmus wound up doing a remix of Living in Oblivion, and I think it's quite good. I've gotten more. I told him that I had gotten more in love with that mix, and I think we played it during the Quarren stream. But anyway, I'm going to, let's play that.
You can hide the pain, and I feel the hurt. La 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 la. You can hide the pain, and I feel the hurt. You can hide the pain. I can see you scroll down your empty face, and I feel the hurt. It's in the words you say, they make me want to scream out to the world for taking life for granted. And I know you are by my side when I turn to hear you cry. I am so afraid. I'm living in oblivion. I am so afraid. I'm living in oblivion. Am I so blind, with my eyes turned to a different time, or at the end of the day, when we both run down and our hearts are heavy? Tell me what you will, 'cause I've got to know the truth inside of you. Can you hear what never speak out. This is my world, this is my world. Don't tell me now, I won't feel those words, I won't feel the lies they tell. Can you hear my scream? It's for everyone, now everyone. I am so afraid, I am so afraid, living in oblivion. I am so afraid, I'm living in oblivion. I am so afraid. I am so afraid.
So around that time that we released Living in Oblivion, see, I should have put the date on it instead of the Roman numerals, because now I can't remember if it was 1995 or 1996, but it was one of the two. And it was basically Living in Oblivion as an EP with different remixes from different bands. So Seven Red Seven did one, Rhythmus did one. We had one from Paul Robb of Information. Did I say that right? But yeah, Paul from Information Society, a bunch of different ones. And that was one of the cool CDs. I don't think I have any copies of it left except for one master. But one of the things I want to do, it's over the years, I've kind of separated them out. So on the Future Past EP that's on Spotify, one of the remixes, the one by Seven Red Seven, is on that. I do believe one of those versions shows up on Mixology. But yeah, so it's overdue to come back to that one and remaster and do a remaster. Which some of them are pretty bad. Like I actually did a little slight bumping and mastering of this track before I played it tonight earlier this afternoon. So that whole disc definitely could use some. So that with a couple of the other remixes that you heard tonight that are unknown, I will be bringing them back as limited editions. So they are coming in that sense. I know it takes time because I'm going to explain what is going on here. So, and then we'll get back into all of it, but I might as well share news with you about other things because otherwise the whole stream will go and then I will forget that all this stuff didn't get said. So a 12-inch is coming where it's hope-centric on one side, worth-centric on the other. Can't tell you what's on them, but that's something that I'm doing. And that's already in the works. I just finished up one of the remixes for one of the songs that's on the Worth side. I'm about to start. Well, I started work on the Hope side already, but I'm going back to those remixes to listen to them again. So that's happening. The second edition of the Hope album book, the last and only 200 copies of it, half of them arrived. I'm just waiting on the discs, and the other half should show up on Monday. So I've got to get that out of the way. And this week, after I was, hit with that news and quite zombified, I actually went back to my journals to see where I was at with the new record, which, again, it's a weird one. It's new old. But the new record, I need to get back to it. So that's something I'm definitely going to do. Um, so Wednesday night, I started to go back and listen to the finished mixes of the album, and I'm quite liking it. I'm still liking it. Months later, I thought that I was going to have a lot of criticism, and oh, I'm not putting that on, or I'm going to change all, and I didn't. So that's actually really good news because it means I'm closer than I thought. And so I'm going to start working on the artwork for the new album. And in between, as I'm doing that, I will pick a certain project that can be done quickly on the side and release those on Bandcamp. So that'll be these little mini releases, but I don't know that those will have physical counterparts. They may, but I doubt it because of the time constraint. If I had to do a book for every single release, I don't think I would have the time. And time is not exactly on my side. So, and made more clearly, painfully so, with my friend's passing, because it feels like I'm on the chopping block myself. Like I have to hurry, so I feel this urgency to finish. So I want to definitely finish the new record. That's number one on my list, in tandem with the 12-inch. Once that's done, once I know the 12 inches are on their way and they're going to go out and I'm working on the book, I will set aside a week here and there, meaning on a Monday, I'll start work on something. And then by that Friday, we'll release something on Bandcamp. That's like the general idea. So if all goes well, every couple of months, there'll be a 12-inch. Every couple of weeks, there'll be, some stuff. I don't want to oversaturate, but I'm definitely trying to make sure that all the archive stuff that I want archived is out. So that's a very important thing to me. But at the same time, I got to tell you this because it's really strange. I feel there's another record in there just floating around in here, and I want to get to it. It's a strange sensation to have a finished record that I want to work on. Some songs that I have at a 3/4 of the way point that I want to finish. And at the same time, a whole grouping of an entirely new identity for Abox forming itself on the side here that I know that I have to get to sooner or later. So it's going to happen. So, and yes, thank you for asking, JP. NFTs are coming with the release. In fact, if you were here last week, you know that I set an open edition in motion. And I'm going to show it to you because that was part of some of the things I had to, talk about here. But so this guy right here, as you can see, it's in portrait mode. But there's a version of this particular piece that's square. And the square is going to be the physical counterpart to a completely different 12-inch. Hint, Living in Oblivion. And so I've made that collectible. That was last week. There are now 2 days, 15 hours, 28 minutes left to get that open edition. What does that mean? Well, look, I'm not trying to sell you stuff. It's not that I want you to buy everything I have. It's not that. But what I am saying is I'm not stopping the train on NFTs. I think of NFTs as artifacts that are digital artifacts, but for me, it's going to have physical connections to real world things. If you look, or if you ever explored the old Anything Box site and you found all the weird secrets, I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of secrets to be found that are coming and those NFTs. And so every physical release that Abox does, whether it's a 12-inch, whether it's a CD, whether it's a shirt, you can bet there's going to be some collectible somewhere that connects it. And when that happens, it is what it is. I'm just saying. So at any rate, didn't mean to get all winded on that, but it's true. I'm trying to definitely, I'm trying to definitely make that happen. So, yeah, the 12-inch will have its own set of collectibles. And so will the limited edition CDs that happen, because there's going to be CDs too, not just vinyl. There's going to be not everything is going to be in its own format. It depends on what the item is. Some things will be 12 inches with art that's collectible. Some of it will be CDs with art that's collectible. Some of it's going to be physical prints with music that's collectible. So however I choose to do it, because there's no rules here. NPOP doesn't really operate by rules. So it is what it is, and lots of books, because I've got a lot of books to do, man. So you can't see it behind me, but the reason oh, maybe you can see. Oh, no, I'll show you. So this week, just like I was going through DATs, this week I've been going through SD cards, and yeah, there's a bunch of them in there. There's about 20 SD cards in there. That's even more material that I haven't gone through, and art that I haven't gone through. So, and yeah, I've got to prep things for the album. That's ongoing. In fact, the album may even have a title change happening, but I'll talk to you guys about that on Facebook and on Twitter or X, because I'm going to take a few polls on some titles, because I want some opinions on the titles. I had originally had a long title for the album, but now I'm thinking of a one-word title again. I don't know. My thought patterns on the album changed slightly with something I was doing with mastering, and then I realized this could actually fit on vinyl. So there is this possibility that the new album might fit on vinyl, and if it does, well, it could happen. So I'm trying. So it's a lot of work. And again, I'm already somebody that, is like behind. So let me put it to you that way. So anyway, I'm going to copy the link to the collectible. And I'm also going to copy a link for people that don't know how to collect these things. If you're interested in collecting them, I'm going to put a link also to a little, I could show you, but it's basically, I did a little article on basically how to collect these things. So it kind of shows you everything you need to know, like how to get the wallet and all that stuff, how it all works. And as always, my biggest reason for showing you how to do crypto and all that kind of stuff that you may think is not involved with the music, but it actually is to free us and to be more decentralized. I'm not doing like little character things like, there's no Abox monkeys or anything weird like that. It's not that kind of stuff. I'm doing art and music. So, let's see, I got a question here. What about former Anything Box members coming back or doing a reunion? I'm always open. I'm always open to things. It's not, I don't want to force things. I never like to force things. So if something were to happen, I'd be all over it, So Iris says retrowave, synthwave is popular now. Have you thought about doing a throwback? I think the record I'm about to release is going to be thought of as a throwback because a lot of the songs are from the 1980s, and I kind of stayed true to their origins while looking a little bit forward. But to be totally honest, um, I'm not into it in that sense, meaning I'm on a different path now. So a lot of I mean, you could call me a throwback because I have the influences from all those things. So obviously, I'm not going to lie. You're going to see or hear influences of Kraftwerk, Depeche, Fad Gadget, Visage, uh, Depeche Mode, New Order. You're going to hear those influences anyway, because they're in me. But I don't like to purposefully throw myself into that sort of arena to try to stay, quote, relevant. In fact, I'm so abhorrent to the idea that half of me goes in the opposite direction. So whatever's like if disco is popular right now, I might take the beat, but I'm going that way. I'm going completely on my own terms. I like to walk through the forest, find the cave to explore. There might be a bear, it might attack me, it might kill me, but I'm going on that path rather than the touristy path. That's kind of like my way. So that's kind of like how I operate. I'm never thinking in terms of what's hot or hip. It's just not me. If it falls into that category by itself, maybe I got influenced. But me doing it on purpose, nah. Nope. Anyway, I'm going to play a mix that David really liked when he heard the stream and he mentioned it to me. So I'll consider this a request because it was also one of his favorite songs from the Hope album. So I'm going to play that one and then I'll come back. And here we go. Moon for this one for sure.
tears that fell. All of my worries and all of my pride, all of my innocence, all gone with time. Has she gone? Although the moment shifted, can you feel it in my bones? Has she gone? Although the moment shifted, can you see it in my eyes? Has she gone? Although the moment shifted, can you feel it in my eyes? Has she gone? Although the moment shifted, can you see it?
That's the DJ Trip mix, which, by the way, I got to meet DJ Trip in San Francisco. What a nice guy. What a really nice guy. And I definitely will be doing more remixes with that guy. So if you're listening, DJ Trip, hi. I love your work. So yeah, he did it justice. And I do believe that, like when we brought in that session metal drummer, yeah, don't remind me of that story, please. Yeah. So as I was saying on the chat, I'm not that guy that just like, oh, I can't think of any songs, so let me find a ghostwriter, or let me hire an extra producer for this. I'm just not like that. If I can't think of anything to do, I've got plenty of things in the files to put a release out. So if I can't think of anything, don't worry. I have a lot of back material. In fact, I have hundreds upon hundreds of songs that I haven't recorded. I was thinking about this the other day. In 2020 alone, I wrote 48 songs and released none of them. So, oh yeah, I'd love to come up to Napa Valley. Hit me up. Just DM me. I love wine country. So anyway, for me, it's just the only thing that stops me is time. I used to think that this tiny studio was going to be, for a while, you've heard me talk about how limiting the space is and all that stuff, but I've gotten used to it now. And it's gotten to the point where I feel that once the headphones are on and I've got everything right and everything sounds the way it's supposed to, I'm in a room far, far bigger than it looks. I have access to so much stuff that, yeah, I'm not worried about material in that sense. So I'm getting used to it, a lot more. And I've been liking coming in here. This week, it's been very, very good for me to be in this room. And like I said, I hadn't listened to the album in a long time. And I thought, wow, like, what am I doing? Why am I sleeping on this record? So I think people will like it. I can't predict that, of course, but I can just say, if you like the first three, if you like Distances, then this is right there. I would feel that this would come technically right after Hope and in between Recovered and Distances or something. So I feel like that's where it's sitting. So I feel like I could be wrong, but that's how I feel about it. Although it has its modern weirdness too. So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's happening. So yeah. I will be getting back to work tomorrow on new album and book. I've got a lot to do, but I'm a bit more focused now because, like I said, the next batch of books are coming in. About 120 of them showed up already. I inspected them yesterday. They're fine. And the next batch is still in transit, according to DHL, supposed to arrive on Monday. So the CDs are still not here, and that's kind of got me bummed out, but I feel they're going to get here on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then the next batch starts going out. By the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, which probably you don't, I am talking about the Hope Anniversary book, and I'll just put the link down here. You guys can check it out if you haven't done it. And if you guys do have it, do me a favor and share photos of your books and all that, because it's okay to get that stuff out now. Because definitely I want to, of course you guys know, because you guys are like my Abox fam. You guys are the ones. Like, seriously, you're like the force, man. Like, I would not be here without you, and I know it. So thank you for all the support you guys give me, and just for the love that you show me. I love it. And I have shows coming up too. I will give you a full update on shows next week though. But yeah, I'm heading out to Chicago area and El Paso area. And so, yeah. So absolutely. Jenny says, can't wait to get my copy. Funny. I just saw your name, by the way. I went through all the orders today to check all the addresses off and everything, so that basically I can start doing, oh, thank you for that super chat. And so that I can start this process. And like I said, when these 200 are done, it's done, because then I have to move on to something else. So I hope that you enjoyed the book, for those that have it. And for those that have it, tell the others how cool it is or how bad it is. However, whatever you think of it, post your reviews and stuff, because it does help me out. But definitely, going to work on the album and the 12-inch. That is all I'm going to be doing. And rehearsal starts so that I can do shows and whatnot. But anyway, I'm going to play a song that or a remix of a song. It does appear on the Dead Stars 12-inch, and it's a song that I had planned to send to David with the cover of that Portishead song, because I had done this particular mix and I thought it was kind of cool and weird and moody. And it kind of sums up this stream for the evening. So I'm going to play that next. And after I come back, I'll say goodbye to you guys, and I will see you next week. Hopefully next week the studio isn't quite as messy as it is now, because again, I haven't had time to do anything this week. But like I said, it's going to be all about Hope, the books, the 12-inch, and I'm just going to go forward. So I'm going to play this song. I'll turn on the moon for this one. This is I Saw the Light, the Grime mix. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, but I'm going to play one more. And I'll turn everything off while it's playing. But I'll see you guys next week.
So I ask again, am I so alone and full of pride to never speak out? This is my world, this is my world.
Good night.
I'm part of it. Can't you see it?